this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids, all 8 of them, should something happen to us.
Are you my dad now?
No, sorry, I do basements. Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.
Support for The Middle comes from the stations that air the show and from you. Thanks for making a donation at listentothemiddle.com.
Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson, along with our house DJ Tolliver. And Tolliver, as you know, on almost every show that we do, we get calls from people who are part of Generation Z, which means they were born between 1997 and 2012.
Yeah, and we get some Gen Alphas, too. Let's not forget.
That's the next one. Those are the younger ones. Right.
We're hip, man. Madison,
we're very hip. So this hour, I am counting on our Gen Z listeners to flood the phone lines at 844-464-3353 because we want to talk about the challenges that you are facing. Gen Z was, of course, the first generation to grow up online with social media taking up hours of their days. The lives of people in Gen Z were also uniquely impacted by the COVID pandemic, something that interrupted schooling and broke down how many people talk and communicate. Gen Z also faces a very tough economic situation, aside from increasing rental prices and interest rates that make owning a home very difficult. For many older workers are staying in their jobs longer, which means the job market is also a challenge. So our question this hour, what are the biggest challenges for Generation Z and what can we do about them? The number is 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. We'll get to your calls in just a moment. But first, last week on the show, we asked for your thoughts on the aggressive immigration enforcement tactics being used by the Trump administration. Here are some of the comments we got on our voicemail.
My name is Alec Malosnik. I'm calling from Conway, New Hampshire. I think the ICE raids are good. We certainly have an immigration crisis in this country, and they needed to do something about it. I think it's the wrong way of doing it.
Hey, first name Juan. I am American-born, but of Dominican parents. If you had spoken to any Hispanic person, we could have told you this was coming. Yes, what Trump is doing is harsh, but it wouldn't have gotten to this point if the previous administration would have taken immigration seriously.
I'm Garrett calling in from Kansas here. As somebody who self-identifies as a middle right politically, I think the current immigration policy, it's based in a good principle, which is sponsoring the legal immigration to our nation, and it's been taken way out of proportion. I think there's a lot of unfortunate tactics being employed, and while some of it's certainly sensationalized by the media, I also think that striking fear into the hearts of illegal immigrants instead of changing the way immigration is done, I think that's the wrong way to go about it.
Well, thanks to everyone who called in. You can hear that entire episode wherever you listen to podcasts. Just subscribe to The Middle. So now to our question this hour. What are the biggest challenges facing Gen Z and what can be done about them? Tolliver, how can people reach us?
You can call us at 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can write to us at listentothemiddle.com. But Gen Z, if you rather comment on our YouTube, do we still have Twitch, Jeremy?
We're on Twitch, and Instagram, all of it.
Everywhere.
You can,
so hit us up and check
there.
all our lines.
You better check especially hard today because they may not want to use the phones, although they sometimes do on this show. Joining me this hour, Madison Brown, a Gen Z YouTuber who discusses many of the challenges facing her generation on her channel. Madison, welcome to The Middle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And Jean Twenge is with us as well, professor of psychology at San Diego State University and author of the new book, 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World, and the old book, Generations. Jean, great to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, before we get to the phones, Jean, you've studied generations for a very long time. What is different about Generation Z than the others?
Oh, a lot of things. And I always want to make clear right from the jump that when I'm talking about generational differences, I'm talking about empirical data, and when it's survey data, it is from young people themselves. This is not older people wagging their fingers and saying, oh, I don't know about these kids today. This is what young people are saying themselves. Or we've got, government data on incomes, things like that. So the biggest change from my perspective in the survey data is in that switch from millennials to Gen Z is a switch from optimism to pessimism, from mental health indicators being either stable or improving to getting markedly worse across pretty much every indicator. So it's just one example. Teen and young adult depression doubled between 2011 and 2019, so even before the pandemic. And these are really large changes that happen in a very short period of time. In all my decades of doing research on generational differences, I'd never seen anything like it.
And do you think that that's because of social media?
That was what I finally figured out. So when I first started to see these changes, I really had absolutely no idea what could be causing them. They were misaligned with economic cycles. The Great Recession was finally over and things were starting to improve around 2011 or 2012 when teen depression was going up. It was tough to think of an event that happened at that time that reverberated across a decade, especially internationally, because we eventually figured out that these trends were appearing internationally as well, say in Australia, in the UK, where some of the US-based explanations didn't really fit. But one thing that did fit, that had a huge impact on the way that young people spend their time, was the rise of the smartphone and the social media. The end of 2012 was the first time the majority of Americans owned a smartphone.
Interesting. Madison, what do you think about all of that? As a member of Generation Z, what are the unique challenges for your generation?
Yeah, I mean, as Jean was talking, I was thinking it really is that, I don't know what I can say, that D-phone. It's that phone. It's so all-encompassing with all the issues that we face, especially socially. There are financial aspects that Gen Z is facing that I don't think has much to do with social media, but when it comes to the loneliness and our kind of inability to socialize like other past generations, it does come down to the phone. Even micro things that I talk about, like fashion, micro trends, and how people adopt personal style, how people shop, it all comes back to social media and the way that it's completely changed the way that we interact with each other or don't interact with each other. And it's a tough one because obviously my job is social media. I've made a living off of it. It's completely changed my life. So it's not that I think, social media is bad and we should never use it. But unfortunately, something that I think was meant to be a tool at first has now become our whole universe. And I think my generation is trying to figure out how can we have a balanced life with it and also live our lives at the same time.
My generation, I was about 18 years old when 9/11 happened. That was a real, really impactful moment for the country and for my generation. What about COVID? What kind of an effect do you think COVID had on your generation, Madison, differently than other generations?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is club culture, nightlife, things like that. I also think social media has its own influence on how we deal with that, but we've gotten so used to staying at home, and I don't know if you've heard this or noticed this, but a lot of people in my generation will make this joke, like, my love language is getting a text that's canceling plans, and people are now excited when someone cancels plans.
Really?
And yeah, it's really weird, and it's something that's always kind of bothered me as someone who likes to see their friends. I'm like, is that really how you feel?
Yeah.
Like, I want to hang out with you. Not that anyone has said that to me personally, but that seems to be like this common mentality. And I think the pandemic has only made that worse, because I don't remember if I saw jokes like that before the pandemic, but definitely afterwards. Because everyone's about protecting their peace and staying at home, and you know, the discomfort that you have to go through when going out, like waiting in line or like getting the bartender to come over to you. All that stuff doesn't have to happen if you stay home. And of course, no one wants to wait in line and stuff, but that's what makes the experience. And any sort of discomfort, I think my generation has become really intolerant to. And I think the pandemic contributed a lot to that.
I'll just say, as a Virgo, I hate it when people cancel plans. Gene, as we have this conversation, a lot of our listeners are not Gen Z, even though Tolliver sometimes says that he is. He's, in fact, a millennial like me. Why do the challenges facing Gen Z matter to other generations, Gene?
Oh, for so many reasons. So first, we're talking about smartphones and social media. They have definitely had the biggest impact on Gen Z, including in how much time they spend with friends and family face to face. But that has had an effect on everyone. Social media kind of taking over has had an impact on all generations. Plus, I give a lot of talks on generations in the workplace. Well, we all have to understand each other. We all have to get along. And when you have these pronounced generational breaks, like the one that you see between millennials and Gen Z in particular, there can be a lot of frustration and misunderstandings if people don't understand those differences and can roll with them.
Very interesting. I want to tell our listeners, by the way, that the phones are lighting up with Gen Z callers, so we're going to get to that in just a minute. And also, I want to let you know a program note. You can join us in person in Concord, New Hampshire for a live show in partnership with New Hampshire Public Radio on October 22nd. You can get details for that at listentothemiddle.com. Tolliver, Gen Z is now firmly a part of America's political sphere, not just with the vote, but now with actual Gen Z legislators.
Yeah, take 28-year-old Florida Representative Maxwell Frost, for example. He's the youngest member of Congress and the first from Gen Z. Here he is talking about what got him into politics in an interview with NBC in 2022.
Gun violence is what got me involved in this work 10 years ago. It was the Sandy Hook shooting. 3 years after that, I'd become a survivor of gun violence myself here in Orlando. And 3 months before that, the Pulse nightclub shooting would happen. The leading cause of death for children is guns, not automobiles anymore. So our children are literally on the front lines of this issue, and we lose 100 people a day. So I look forward to being a strong advocate and champion to ensuring we live in a country where we don't have to fear going to church, going to school because of gun violence. We deserve the freedom to live without the fear of that violence.
Again, Maxwell Frost, 28 years old, and in a few minutes we're going to talk about some of the global issues that are facing Generation Z, from gun violence to climate change and even political division. You're listening to The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle. From beautiful northern Italy, with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids, all 8 of them, should something happen to us.
Are you my dad now?
No, sorry, I do basements. Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
How do you make chicken nuggets like 7,000% better? Short answer, you let Taco Bell make them. Long answer, start with all white meat chicken nuggets, bread them in crunchy tortilla chips, and serve them with Hidden Valley Diablo Ranch. Yep, that's Hidden Valley Ranch mixed with Taco Bell Diablo sauce. It's exactly what it sounds like, and somehow even better. Simple math, spicy results. Crispy chicken nuggets from Taco Bell. A brand new classic. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only, while supplies last.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, The Middle is a national call-in show. We're focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. This hour, we're talking about the biggest challenges facing Generation Z. Tolliver, what is the number to call in?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com or on social media, and we did get a Twitch follower. So I know it exists.
One. Good. Okay, great. I'm joined by Gen Z YouTuber Madison Brown and Jean Twenge, professor of psychology at San Diego State University. Let's get to a phone call because they are lighting up. Lizzie is in Salt Lake City, Utah. Lizzie, welcome to The Middle. Are you Gen Z, and what do you think about the challenges the generation faces?
Hi, I am Gen Z. I was born in 2002, so I'm like in the middle of Gen Z, kind of. And I totally agree that one of the biggest problems facing our generation is like social media and phones and like how to navigate them. Because I remember being in like elementary school and having like smart boards, but no one had like personal computers or iPads or phones. I didn't get a phone until I was in high school, but like social media has like so rapidly like encompassed all of life that it does seem really hard to navigate like what is real, what's not real, what like are good goals, what are bad goals. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me, at least.
What do you intend to do about that? Are you making changes in your own life if you see that as a problem to try to get away from it?
Yeah, it's hard because like I feel like using my phone and like scrolling is really like helpful in like limiting stress, but it also is like stress adding because like the news and then
right
just like jealousy and embarrassment and stuff. And so honestly, like I haven't been successful, but the biggest thing is just like trying to do things that don't involve my phone and just like not caring if I don't have my phone with me. And like it's just like it's ironic, but it's just like leaving my phone in another room and then like reading a book or hanging out with my friends, and that's like the biggest thing that helps me not just like scroll for a whole day.
Lizzie, thank you so much for that call. Madison, what do you think about that? Do you hear from a lot of members of your generation that they are trying actively to do what Lizzie is doing and spend less time with the phone if they see that as a challenge of the generation?
Yeah, definitely. Even millennials who are maybe like 10 years older than me, I hear them talking about the same thing because it's so easy to get just caught up in your algorithm. You have to remind yourself life comes first. There are so many other things to be doing. And also, you're not doing things faster just to get back to your phone. I feel like that's something I've noticed in myself where I'm like, oh, like, okay, I got to do the dishes, but then afterwards I can scroll on my phone, which isn't like the worst thing. At least you're doing the dishes. But I feel like me and other people in my generation feel like our phone is like truly such a like mitochondria for our world. Even like standing somewhere, like maybe you're waiting for the bus or the train, or you're feeling awkward in a public setting and you go on your phone to like kind of fill the void. I try to tell myself like you can like sit in this and you don't have to scroll just because you feel a little awkward and you don't know what to do with your hands.
Well, Gene, this is what your new book is about, is what parents can do. What should parents be doing about making sure that their Gen Z children, or, and some of these children are not children anymore, they're now adults, but like what their Gen Z offspring should be doing to spend less time on something that clearly they believe is harmful?
Yeah, and alphas too. So the book is 10 rules. And it is mostly for parents, but I want to talk about Rule 2, because Rule 2 is something that is for everyone, not just parents talking to their kids about and making sure their kids follow, but all of us should be doing this, which is no devices in the bedroom overnight. So that is one area where we can pretty much say unequivocally, okay, we're going to carve out that time for sleep and relaxation right before sleep, and devices should not be interfering with that. So, because I know so many people who have that phone on the bedside table or in bed with them, and then the notifications go off. Even if your phone is off, studies are showing you won't sleep as much or as well.
Wow.
And then scrolling right before bed is especially deadly, because going to sleep is like landing a plane. It takes about 30 minutes to wind down, and the phone is not the thing to be doing to wind down. It winds you up.
Yeah. Let's go to Maddie, who's in Baltimore, Maryland. Hi, Maddie. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hi. I was born in 1999, so I'm right at the beginning of my generation. And my younger brother, he was born in 2012, so he's right at the end. And currently, I'm 26, and I'm trying to move out of my parents' home. I have a full-time job. I do a lot of extra work on the side, and it is completely impossible for me to get a house and move out. I've been trying to get things together for maybe about a year now, and my goal is early next year. But I've just noticed that there's a lot of financial stress with people my age, with student debt and financial insecurity for the future. And I really think it's a much harder goal to attain in comparison to, what my dad's vision for me was, go to college, get a car, get a house, move out. And it's so difficult for me now, and I'm scared for my brother in the future, because if it's hard for me, I can't imagine what it's going to be like for him.
Because you think it's getting worse.
And I do think it's getting worse, and I don't think that he will have a stable groundwork for him to build off of in the future. I thought I did, and even now, where I live currently, I can't work in town. I will have to find another place in the future to live and to work, just to kind of make ends meet. A lot of friends my age, they room together, but I've heard and seen in a lot of places that rents and mortgages are around the same price these days. And they're very high, both of them, and mortgages very difficult to get right now. Maddie, thank you very much for calling in. And Madison, let's talk about that economic side of things. I mean, do you believe that it is the goal of people in Gen Z, the way it has been for people in previous generations, to own a home, to own a car, or is it not really what they're aiming for in the same way?
Well, I want to say no, because we've realized maybe that's not the most realistic for most of us. And also there's I don't know if people are necessarily moving towards cities more in Gen Z, but I know we're all kind of why don't we have walkable cities? And maybe owning a house isn't the answer for life. Maybe renting is okay, things like that. But yeah, I think about this a lot just for myself personally. I was always told, buy a house. My grandfather flipped houses for a living. He's not American. He immigrated here. And so he's kind of this quintessential American dream. You come here, you work hard, you buy a buy a nice house in Florida and retire. And so he thinks that's what you'll do and you'll be successful. And I'm like, you know what? I still believe I can buy a house one day, but it's not like it was in the 70s.
Right.
So it's...
or the 50s, for that matter. I mean,
or
like,
the 50s.
right. He used to be able to... I mean, I wasn't around in the 50s, but I know that it was a lot easier in those days. Tolliver, what's coming in from our Gen Z listeners online?
Sure. I just want to start with this one. Abby in Raleigh says, quote, "You said my phones are lighting up with calls from Gen Z, and I have never heard anyone say that, and I have not stopped laughing."
I'm telling you, I'm looking at all 10 lines right now. They are lit up.
There's a couple
go
more.
ahead.
I'll be quick. So artificial intelligence is making a large majority of the majors and fields of study that my generation was pushed toward essentially obsolete. And then finally, Matthew in Minnesota says, "Are there any major political differences observed between older and younger Gen Zers?"
Gene?
I have seen some folks say that, but I dug into some data on Gen Z's political beliefs pretty recently, and I did not see that split between older and younger Gen Zs. It seemed pretty consistent. The main theme was that although more Gen Zers voted for Trump in 2024 versus 2020, that you do not see more identifying as conservative, because that had been a rumor for a while. It doesn't look like that's the case, even among young men, at least in one data set of young adults.
And do you think, by the way, that, we heard from Maxwell Frost a bit earlier on about gun violence. Does the overall state of the world, gun violence, climate change, divisive politics affect Gen Z differently or land differently with Gen Z, Gene, than it does with other generations?
Well, I mean, I should clarify, I don't think that's the primary cause of the increase in depression, given that it's international. And for climate change, if that was the cause, you'd expect a bigger increase in depression among, say, older teens and young adults versus children and young teens. And it's exactly the opposite. The biggest increases are among children and young teens. But certainly, these things are going to hit young people because this is the world they're inheriting. And that late 2010s was a real turning point for political activism among Gen Z. The Parkland shooting, for example, 2018.
Right.
And then the voter turnout of Gen Z in those 2018 midterms was much higher than 4 years before in the previous set of midterms among young adults. So that does point to some political activism being inspired in this generation. And we'll see.
Let's go to Marianne, who's in Houston, Texas. Marianne, welcome to the middle. Are you Gen Z? And if so, what are the challenges you face?
Well, I'm Gen Z, and what I was considering when I'm listening to this is I think on the mainstream level, there's identification that there's a loneliness problem, but people are cautious to offer a solution to it. And so that leaves sort of a vacuum that's filled by some bad actors like Andrew Tate or, I'd say Nick Fuentes or some of these others. And then also for the sake of my own point, I'm going to just offer a solution, which is that I think that people would be happier if they spend just a month cleansing themselves of anything algorithmic based and just see how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, we're very proud on the middle that our calls have nothing to do with an algorithm. Marianne, thank you very much for that call. Let me try Francisco, who's in Chicago. Francisco, are you Gen Z?
Yeah, I'm Gen Z. I actually caught your show as I was leaving work, so I figured I'd call in.
Yeah, tell us what you think.
Yeah, I think there's something that you touched on originally, and that was the opportunity, and I wanted to bring up the job market for my generation. I just got a new job as I used to be OTR. I was an OTR truck driver, which for those who don't know was over the road, and I recently just got a local job at a local terminal doing deliveries. But I've seen it in a lot of friends of mine, and I see it a lot in the people in my generation. I know we talked about young men earlier, especially with the voting base. I see a lot of young men, including myself, just burnt out. It's very tough to try to stay competitive. I think 10 hours is the new 8 hours, and it's very, very difficult to compete. And my job, specifically in my field, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that with all the advancements in technology and AI, I might not have this job for the next 20 years. There might be automated trucks. And this job is a good job. You know, I get insurance, benefits, good pay. I mean, it is a lot of hours. It is very hard, but it's doable. I had a guy this week. He retired after 40 years. I don't know if I can get to that point.
But that's what you want to do,
You know,
to
that's
be
what
able
really
to do.
scares me. Yeah, I would like to at least get the opportunity to. I'd like to at least provide, take care of. I now have a family, and I think that's my main priority. And when I see some of the
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Remarkably Bright Creatures is now playing, only on Netflix.
stuff that goes on, I see a lot of people checking out. A lot of my friends checking out. I see a lot of people just disillusioned, very apathetic. You know, it's very tough to stay competitive.
Yeah.
And especially if your field isn't going to exist in maybe the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are feeling that right now about, you know, what AI is going to do. Francisco, really appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Madison, what do you think about that? Sort of the fears about what jobs will be around in the future, but also just Francisco feeling like 10 hours is the new 8 hours, and then he's just having to work so hard to bring in enough money to take care of his family.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel for him. It seems like this sense of burnout is affecting a lot of us, if not all of us, to some degree. It just doesn't feel like the work, the hours are amounting to what they used to be. And you kind of think like, well, what is this all for? Like, I'm just going to work until I die and be left with nothing. And that's where I think a lot of that nihilism comes from, because it doesn't seem like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's not like you can just give up and, like, you know, I don't know what the alternative would be, being homeless, I guess. I don't know. But it's really unfair. I wish I had a more, like, optimistic perspective. And especially with the AI stuff, I know a lot of people in so many different fields are afraid of their jobs going away because of AI. And I'd like to hope we can adapt in some way. I really don't know what the future looks like with that, but it's scary. We're kind of just in this weird unknown right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is that a big part of it, Gene? Just sort of the unknown and the uncertainty that Gen Z is coming into right now.
I think that's certainly part of it. And I do feel I should mention, you know, a few statistics which may seem somewhat contradictory. So one is absolutely housing prices are very high and interest rates are high right now. So that's making it really tough with housing. However, median incomes for young adults are at all-time highs, corrected for inflation. The Wall Street Journal about a year ago had an article mostly focused on millennials, but also on older Gen Z, saying that in terms of their wealth building, they were actually ahead of Gen X and boomers at the same age. And nobody believes this, but don't shoot the messenger. The messenger isn't even me. It's the Wall Street Journal. So, and this is maybe a couple years out of date. Maybe that's some of it with AI coming in and challenging things. Because don't forget, it wasn't that long ago we had a labor shortage.
Right.
And then we had so many boomers who were leaving the job market that there were a lot of opportunities for Gen Z.
They're making more money, but it's also been more difficult for them to buy houses. And I saw that the rate of home ownership is significantly lower with Gen Zers at a certain age than it was for previous generations. Tolliver, there are some stereotypes about Gen Z. For example, they operate a little differently in the workplace.
Yeah, and there are endless Instagram memes about that. Here's one where an older boss is using a translate to talk with his Gen Z employee.
Ava, we need to discuss your quarterly performance metrics.
What?
He said, bestie, he wants to tell you how you've been slaying at work.
Oh, bet. That's actually fire. My numbers have been giving main character energy. All facts, no printer.
She's excited and confident. Her performance has been excellent. She's being honest with you.
I need you to work harder and focus on the synergistic optimization of your deliverables.
He's saying bet. He wants you to lock in and make your work hit different.
Say less. I'm about to be so locked in, it's not even funny.
Say less.
No printer.
Bet. What does bet even mean, Tolliver?
I think it's like an affirmation, like, I got you, loud and clear.
Bet. You bet. You bet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids, all 8 of them, should something happen to us.
Are you my dad now?
No, sorry, I do basements. Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured 2 prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. This hour, we're talking about the biggest issues facing Generation Z. You can call us at 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also reach out at listentothemiddle.com or on YouTube. I'm joined by Jean Twenge, professor of psychology at San Diego State University, and YouTuber Madison Brown. Let's go back to the phone. Sam is in Rhode Island. Sam, welcome to The Middle. Go ahead.
Hi, let me turn off here really quick. All right, there we go. Hi. I'm afraid that the biggest things that I'm concerned about are basically I'm worried about AI, but not for the job market. I'm worried about radicalization in my generation with the way our government portrays things, and I'm concerned about the economy.
Explain what you mean by radicalization of the way the government portrays things.
I'm really concerned about, like, specifically, like, hate crimes towards immigrants, trans people, the LGBTQ plus community, and just, like, eventually between people who are, like, right-wingers and left-wingers.
And you feel like, as you're Gen Z yourself, I assume?
Yes, I was born in 2004.
In 2004. And do you feel like this is more of an issue for your generation than for other generations?
Yeah, I think the way that like politicians talk about people on opposing sides and like the people that they're like currently targeting, like if you're like Republican, like say like immigrants or like illegal immigrants, like I think there's a lot. It's very like volatile, and I think it could definitely incite people into violence.
Sam, thank you very much for that call. Gene, what do you think about that? We have seen, in the protest movements, for example, around Gaza, a lot of Gen Z were involved in that, especially on the college campuses and things like that. What do you hear in what Sam is saying?
Yeah, well, just a huge increase in political polarization, and from surveys and polls, just a much higher tolerance for political violence than there ever used to be. And I think there's a number of factors in that, but social media is one of those. It really gets people going. I mean, social psychology studies have shown that content that makes people angry gets shared more on social media, so it spreads faster.
Kathleen is calling from Surrey, New Hampshire. Kathleen, are you Gen Z, and what are your thoughts on the challenges the generation faces?
Yes, I was born in 2007. I'm a senior in high school right now. I think that maybe not the biggest problem, but one of the big ones is definitely like the accessibility and potency of marijuana and nicotine, especially in like school environments, because I'm sure it's different for depending on how legal it is where you are, but it's super normalized, at least at the public school that I go to. And I've heard the same from other people. It just turns over lives, and they've existed in some way or another for like forever, but right now it's just so accessible and so dangerous.
It's really interesting, Kathleen, that you say that, because 2014 was when the first state legalized marijuana. We did an entire show about this. And the potency, as you say, is extremely high in a lot of the edibles that are available now compared to like in 1970, if your dad or maybe your grandfather was smoking a joint, it was like a few percent potency. Now it can be like 90% potency. And as you say, a lot of young people are going after these like edibles that look like candy.
And the discreetness of them as well. Like you could do it anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Kathleen. Madison, what do you think about that? And do you see that as well among your peers?
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about this recently. As a ex-marijuana user, I always bring that up when I talk about why I stopped smoking and my reflections on smoking weed in high school, because I'm like, I've had some horrific experiences with weed, and because, around 2014 when things were starting to get legalized, no one really wanted to talk about the dangers of weed because people were so focused on this goal of, decriminalizing and all that, which I agree with. Like, you shouldn't go to prison for weed. But at the same time, if you're 15 years old and your brain isn't developed and you're taking like, I don't know the percentage, but like a dab that feels like it's going to end your life, that's not normal. And that's not something that should be like, oh, it's fine, it's just weed. Like, weed potency is crazy. I mean, I remember I went to Colorado with my dad, and he used to smoke, and he took an edible, and it was like, whoa, I don't remember it being like this. So it has changed, and it's something that we need to consider more.
Yeah. Tolliver, I feel like I've made my point by allowing only Gen Z callers on the show. So I'm going to go with one that's not Gen Z right now. Jenny is in San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Jenny. You're not Gen Z.
No, I'm not. I'm your mom, sticking her head in the conversation. I raised two Gen Z girls, and I am just, first of all, let me say I'm so freaking proud of you guys. I mean, y'all have survived so much, and I know that Gen X tends to take credit for the neglect and abuse of the boomers, and well, yeah, we do. But nonetheless, I just wanted to pose the question, like, just overall, I know this is kind of a high level, question, but like, I'm just so curious if you guys feel neglected or coddled? Because that has been an ongoing debate among Gen X parents, you know, when it comes to all of these issues, cell phones, social media, you know, socialization. And, you know, yes, we definitely see, as Gen X parents, we see this stark difference between how we used to socialize as Gen Xers and how you guys seem to, I don't want to say lack, but I mean, it's very different the way you guys socialize, and it's almost alien to us, but we're definitely more concerned than our boomer parents ever were about us. And so I just, you know, I know how my girls feel, my two Gen Zers feel, but I kind of raised them a little different than most Gen Xers did. But anyway,
let's ask Madison Brown, who's on here. Do you feel coddled or neglected by previous generations, Madison?
I personally don't feel coddled. I guess it kind of depends on your parents and like your family, how they raised you. I think if there's any coddling going on, it's with each other. But I don't feel like I was necessarily coddled by my parents or older people. I think if anything, I did a lot of like convincing or getting people to try to understand where I'm coming from, because there's a generational difference, like with mental health or something like that.
Interesting. Anne is calling from Boston, Massachusetts, another Gen Z caller. Anne, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. I'm Anne, calling in from Boston, Mass. And yes, I was born in 1999, and so I identify as Gen Z.
And what do you think are the big challenges that your generation faces?
I was calling in to pose the question around how the technologies that Gen Z grew up around has affected our social and civil development, particularly because these technologies like the internet and smartphones are very immersive in nature, and they can sort of occupy a large portion of one's worldview, depending on how much they include these technologies in our lives. And I think that has like a profound effect on basically how people of our generation view their social and civil lives.
Great question, Anne, and something we've been touching on. But Gene, what about that specific question about how it's affected their development?
Yeah, and there's still a lot of unknowns out there, but we do know that teens and young adults are spending a lot less time with each other in person. So through middle school and high school, they're just a lot less likely to just hang out with their friends or go to the mall or drive around in a car or go to a party compared to previous generations. So that has some, obvious implications for social development and social skills. A lot of the stuff that Madison was talking about, the idea of, I'm glad that we canceled plans. I think that does have some roots in the pandemic, but it goes back even further than that because the social interaction piece that's been declining since the early 2010s. And then in terms of the civic development, we've touched on some of those issues around political polarization. And when you get your news from social media instead of a centralized source, well, there's advantages to that because then it's more democratic, so to speak. More people have a voice. On the other hand, it's also more atomized, and you can expose yourself to only the news that you want to see and only the viewpoints that you want to see, and that seems to have increased the divide in our country.
Ryan is calling in from Minneapolis. Hi, Ryan. Go ahead with your thoughts. Are you Gen Z?
Yes, I was born in 2001, and I think the greatest challenge is a general sense of apathy that kind of seems to be permeating our generation due to a lot of the political and social headwinds that we're facing.
The political and social headwinds being the kinds of things we heard about a little bit earlier. Are there specific issues that you're thinking about there?
Yeah, generally like global climate change and kind of like rising political tensions and authoritarians.
Now, you say apathy. You were born in 2001, so you've had an election that you were able to vote in, at least one. Are you voting? Do you feel apathy that you don't want to vote, or do you want to be involved in politics?
I'm personally voting, and a lot of people in my social circles are as well. But I also noticed that within people that are voting, they don't seem to be as deeply involved in the politics of what they're voting for.
Interesting. Ryan, thank you. And Madison, on the issue of whether, Gen Z is voting in big numbers, do you expect that kind of apathy that we just heard about there in the coming election, the midterms next year, or are the voting age Gen Zers going to get out in force?
I really hope they get out in force, because the last election, in my sort of political social bubble, that apathy was really present. Apathy was present, and also this idea that if you're voting for either side, you're voting for genocide. And I understand where people were coming from, but I don't think that ended well for us, because I don't think anyone wanted Trump to win in my social political circle, anyone who's against genocide, so much to the point that they won't even vote for Kamala. They don't want Trump. But this is a very layered conversation, but yeah. I think a part of that is apathy of like, it doesn't matter anyway, so why
they don't
even
feel
bother?
Like they can have an effect. Tolliver, what else is coming in online?
All right, we've got Rebecca. She says, I'm a boomer here. The young people I talk to and hear about feel quite hopeless for many reasons. Echoing Madison, our current government in the form of Donald Trump seem not to care about the future, and it's pretty evident. So, I want to get back to a call or whatever, but...
but because we have so many that are still, we've got some young people still on the lines and just a few minutes left. Let's go to Joe, who's in San Antonio, Texas. Joe, are you Gen Z, and what are your thoughts?
So, yes, I am Gen Z. I was born in 2007. And very briefly, I just wanted to touch on, I feel like we know social media is an issue, but we're not focused on why it's an issue. I think that a lot of people who feel isolated, people in marginalized communities, trans people, women, a lot of people go online to seek that community. But once certain algorithms, certain, websites, everything tracks that you're part of a community, they purposefully, this is something that was actually looked at, they will purposely send you more and more hate, because that hate will get engagement from those groups and cause you to stay online longer. And that type of hate that you see every single day, if you log on, if you check the news, if you do anything, you see that catered to you. And it makes you think, I don't really want to talk to people in real life, because what if they are all like that? What if I'm talking to somebody and they are going to look at me and say, you don't belong here?
Joe, let me just ask you one quick follow-up question, which is, do you feel like you had adequate training in your life at any point to deal with social media and these algorithms that are targeting you and trying to get you to stay on longer and stuff like that?
I think that I had great training for the internet before this point. My parents were very well thought out, very good, well educated, and they made sure that I did not have broader internet access until I was much older. However, I was trained for an internet that does not have the precision that it has now. So now I'm completely unable to handle just the pure amount of hate. No matter what you do, no matter what sites you're on, I don't have Snapchat. I don't have social media. I'm only on YouTube and Safari, the web browser. And yet still I will get targeted like hate. And it's very concerning.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for calling in and also for making it so that we had an entire show of callers that were nothing but Gen Z, except one parent of Gen Z kids. Madison, I'm going to give you the final word here. What are you optimistic about as a Gen Z person right now?
Well, we talk a lot with each other online. We're very aware of the good and the bad. At least, again, it's hard to say. I can't speak for all Gen Z. Algorithms really kind of put you into this echo chamber. I try to break out of it, but we're a very open generation.
Yeah.
So I think as we age and mature, we can also mature in the way that we communicate and kind of course correct. So I have hope for our generation to find solutions and to keep an open mind. That's kind of Gen Z's whole thing, I think, is being open-minded. Sometimes to a fault where it kind of circles back around to being closed-minded, but I feel like, we're very talkative, communicative, so I think that's
a good note to end on. Madison Brown, YouTuber, thank you so much. And Jean Twenge, professor of psychology at San Diego State University, author of the new book, 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World, and also the book Generations. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you for having me.
And Tolliver, we really ate that and left no crumbs. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We've got extra episodes of our One Thing Trump Did podcast every week, only available on the Middle podcast feed. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Next week, we'll be back here getting into the big national conversation about redistricting. We want to know whether you feel represented by the political process and what fair representation looks like to you.
Our number is 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out at listentothemiddle.com, where you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter and send us your ideas for future show topics.
The Middle is brought to you by Long Neck Media, distributed by Illinois Public Media in Urbana, Illinois, produced by Harrison Patino, Danny Alexander, Sam Burmistad, John Barth, Annika Deschler, and Brandon Condritz. Thanks to Jason Croft, our technical director today. I'm Jeremy Hobson. I will talk to you next week.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.